Hey gang, Futurist here. I've been talking a lot about futurism and positive rights and negative rights and how it all fits within social issues, and what I always divide it by is economic issues, because I think it's important to separate the two. And it's like one thing that's been talking about, especially with a lot of anarchists I've run into lately, is, well, one thing is U.S. imperialism, but the other is living in a cage. And I really didn't realize how much I endorsed the prison system. And I guess I do. Well, I do and I don't. Because as a post-scarcity futurist, I see prison as, and by default jail, incarcerament, and all the issues around recidivism. I see that as a place for reform, but reform with time. And what I'm talking about, well, is probably a gilded cage. Because they say the United States, where I'm at, has the most friggin' intensive and extensive prison system in the world. And I'm having to wonder how that's possible when there's places like Guatemala, I don't know about Guatemala, but places like Russia, China, a lot of the places that have a lot worse human rights. Saudi Arabia, maybe there are places better than America for this. I don't know, Sweden somewhere, who knows? Maybe I don't know, is Germany doing better now? I don't know. Paris, how is their legal system? I'm sure England's got problems too. Japan seems to have some issues with people just having suicides. A lot of suicides. Suicide. Sure, Japan. It's funny how some of your ethnic people just seem to disappear off the face of the freaking map. Suicide. Yeah. What's even weird about Japan is some of their minority, well, Asians that aren't Japanese Americans, they're Japanese nationals, tend to be disappeared, where Americans that come to live there are treated actually better. Kind of strange. But in any case, in America, and what I'm talking about is how I see it as a futurist society, and the idea that a gilded cage, because I've heard about liberal, foo-foo, freaking social progressive, freaking, we'll rehabilitate them, and the freaking gangbangers, and the freaking dogs, and the damn criminals, not to mention the corporate criminals that friggin' seem to run the country, and just like, meh, okay, and it's like, but the poor people seem to be like, well, we know what we're gonna get, oh, I didn't go back to my other point. Anyway, the other countries, got stuck up on Japan or something, the other countries seem to have less incarceration, but I think there's a reason for that less incarceration, although I could be wrong about some of the other major countries in the world. And that's, they sent you a 12-cent bill, or they sent a family a 12-cent bill by the minute. Bang! 12-cent bill. Man, I guess their ammo is kind of expensive too. I don't know. In any case, isn't that nice, China? They're so polite. Of course, except I saw the friggin' guy for the toothpaste friggin' poison that friggin' got the handcuffs on him, and he went, ooh! I messed up. Give me the freaking gun. No, like Chris Rock said, save the money off the freaking ammunition. Put him in the stabbing chair, Maybe Islam does get things right once in a while. Akbar America. Anything. No. I don't know. Shit. In any case, that wouldn't be the kind of futurist society I would want. I'm just talking. But, actually, I wouldn't have a death penalty at all. I would have suicide. Go ahead. Here's how it works. Anytime you don't want to live and you committed a felony, you could ask to be friggin' euthanized, and they'll take you in, give you a shot in your arm, put the friggin' thing over your mouth. They won't even bother to execute you. They'll just friggin' knock you out like on a hospital table, and then they'll just harvest all your organs and use the rest for biomass waste or friggin' cadaver camps or whatever, Just friggin' harvest them out for all the people who friggin' deserve and want to live, But of course, there's no friggin' motivation for abuse or corruption there. No. That's something to think about, you know what I mean? But in a future society, yeah, okay, that's one thing I would do, is supposed to be like a human zoo. It's supposed to be like a natural habitat. And, this might reduce the I can't think of the word. I try to make good videos, guys. Sometimes the word just friggin' blocks. And I guess it's the point where I should pause and then come back, and do a jump cut and stuff, but what the hell. Like when you got a deterrent, like when you got nuclear weapons, deterrent. A reformed prison wouldn't deter many people. Because I think prison should be segregated not by race, but by types of criminal. And so there wouldn't be a career college. And of course, I would have a much expanded prison system, and more alive, not such a cage, but like an environment, So it wouldn't really deter many people. It would be a gilded cage, but the long separation and segregation from society would both produce, excuse me, would both serve as a deterrent and a natural reform, because you would be putting them in an environment where they would reform, because there would be a stable environment where they could get medicine, they can get counseling, they can get freaking a lot of things, and maybe with trackers and other things, although I'm very weary of trackers, because that could be a dystopian thing right there. Find out everybody freaking getting a tracker, or people just getting freaking chipped when they're children, so they freaking won't be freaking, lost or something, and then all of a sudden people just start wearing the chips after 18 because it's like ID, and then all of a sudden you run around with a friggin' everyone in a chip society, that's a bad friggin' future, So that's something you have to be wary of. Although if you're lost in the woods, or friggin', especially if it had a biomonitor where you could friggin' tell if someone was going to have a heart attack or a stroke or something, that might be useful. But it's a slippery slope of dangerous precipice. And so that's one thing that would be a problem in the gilded cage, is getting away from frigging actually housing people to just frigging tracking them. You know, especially if we had developed like a CCTV or something. So that's an issue of futurism. A society that's a planned society, you know, that could be very bad. You know, where technology is run amok and frigging become dystopian and abusive. That's one thing. Another thing is that, you know, once you get these long sentences and stuff, it sort of becomes a long recidivism. You know, like it becomes a cycle of society where, you know, from your 20s up to your 20s, you're incarcerated pretty much in a school system. Then you live your 30s and 40s, and by the time you're in your 50s or 60s, maybe even 50s, freaking you're reincarcerated in an older assisted living kind of thing, you know, because, you know, you after 50 it becomes an issue of health, especially if they freaking find a way to incorporate an emergency response where they have a high rate of resuscitation, excusing it. You know, I'm trying to make videos where I talk more intelligently, because instead of getting on here and going, you know, and then freaking get on the freaking text and typing everyone all these intricate things about positive rights and negative rights. But these are aspects of what since I'm calling myself a futurist, I don't call myself a retro futurist, but since I call myself a futurist, that I'm talking about society and how free you are. The cage. You know, what kind of cage are you in? You know, people don't even know their rights, and it varies by state to state and county by county, I guess, in America, with the police officer and, you know, their lawful order, where you're just basically, you don't even know your rights, and you're ordered to comply, and the policeman can just say, well, probable cause, I don't care, you know, do what I say anyway, or well, I'm going to escalate to violence, you know. And that's just like, well, fuck. If there is no real rights, we're just living in a freaking managerial tyranny. You know, a managerial state. You know, liberty's gone. I mean, you know, we just have the internet, the TV, you know, the radio. We can diddle, we can daddle, we can read, you know, we can walk around from state to state and maybe go outside and come back if they let you back in, you know, but, you know, forget it. Otherwise, you know, the socialists have taken over. You know, we live in a Marxist state, you know, and because everybody thinks that's great and golly, go up to your local policeman and just pester him freaking so much and see how well that works. You know, because we now live in a state where we can only be afraid of the police. And that would be another thing in a future society I would have, is that there would be different tiers of enforcement. Well, I don't know, that could be dystopian and dangerous too. But, you know, there would be an average patrolman or someone you could call where they would assist you. I could see more integration into social worker, caseworker, assistance person, and general, someone who friggin', you know, is an advocate for you, you know, and maybe even a little bit of the law where, you know, if you call somebody because you're not sure about the law, they won't turn on you. Well, you know, they can't be friggin', you know, complacent with your friggin' crime, but, you know, everything's a goddamn crime nowadays, you know. So that would probably have to be looked at also in the friggin' gilded cage. And, you know, and generally, you gotta ask yourself, I even have to admit, you know, with all the things and stuff, what kind of cage are you in? I don't have the 15-minute limit, I gotta go, bye.